One of the great strengths of 3ds Max is that it can be used by individuals and small groups to produce quality results in a short amount of time. When you first open 3ds Max, with the default interface and preferences, you'll be confronted with a lot of stuff in the viewports here that we don't really need. This is called a steering wheel, and this is called the view cube. These are both designed for non-technical users such as directors and managers so that they can evaluate a 3ds Max scene without necessarily knowing the tools. For the purposes of a professional user of 3ds Max, the view cube and steering wheel actually get in our way. Also, for the purposes of teaching, it's better to have a cleaner interface without too much clutter. So let's turn both of these features off before we really begin. First thing I'm going to do is go up to my Views menu in my main menu at the top of the 3ds Max window. Within that Views menu, you'll see View Cube and Steering Wheels. So for the View Cube, to disable it, I'm going to have to go into the Configuration, View Cube Configure. Takes me to the Viewport Configuration dialog, and I can simply flip the switch to disable the View Cube and click OK. Then I can go back to my Views menu and additionally turn off the steering wheels. You can go to Steering Wheels, Toggle Steering Wheels, which means if they're on, turn them off. Now we've got a cleaner interface in our viewports and we won't be distracted by all of that. The other thing I want to turn off is this Info Center toolbar. This is a nice feature that allows you to search not just the 3ds Max help documents, but also the online knowledge base at Autodesk.com. 3ds Max is divided into several main areas. In the center, of course, we have the viewports, and this is where we will view and manipulate our virtual world or our 3D scene. We have a main menu across the top. We also have a strip of icons here called the main toolbar. And a lot of our common tools are found there. On the right-hand side, we have the so-called command panel. And this is where you'll spend quite a lot of time in 3ds Max. You have different tabs within the command panel. For example, the Create panel and the Modify panel. Those are the two that you'll use most. In the Create panel, we have a bunch of categories of objects. For example, geometry, that'll make 3D objects. Or shapes, that'll create 2D lines. Lights and cameras and so on. We'll start by making simple primitives. So the first category in this pull-down list here is standard primitives. A primitive is a basic building block object like a sphere or a box. To start making primitives, you can click on one of the buttons such as Sphere, click and drag in one of the viewports, and we'll use the perspective viewport to do that. So I click to determine the center of the sphere, drag to determine the radius, and then release the mouse. The funny thing about these buttons is, if you click it again, it doesn't turn the button off. If you want to stop making spheres, you can choose a different tool. For example, you can go up to your main toolbar and click on the Select Object tool. And that'll exit you out of sphere creation mode. And you can go to Selecting Objects. If an object is selected, it'll be bracketed, or in a wireframe view, it'll be shown in white. To delete objects, just select it. You can Control-click to select multiple objects and hit the Delete key on the keyboard. Okay, so if you want to make boxes and other types of objects, you may need to click and drag multiple times. For example, with a box, you'll click and hold the mouse to determine the length and width of the box. Release the mouse button and drag upward to determine the height. And click again to finish the operation. If I want to stop making boxes, I'll right-click. That's another way to exit out of a creation mode. You can choose a different tool, or you can just use the right mouse button and click anywhere in the viewport.